We are going to talk about Captain Kung'u Muigai. We are going to talk about his family. We are going to talk about his current land issues. Actually, it is this story about land issues that motivated me to pick him as today's topic. Apart from his family, his current land issues, we are going to talk about his position in the Council of Elders and his military life. In King's English, we grew up knowing that it is Queen's English. Now we have King Charles, so it is called King's English. In King's English, he is Uhuru Muigai's cousin. In King's English, he is Uhuru Muigai's cousin. In African languages, he is Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta's brother of another father. We Africans, when we speak English, we refer to their relationship as a brother of another father, or a brother of another mother, or a sister of another father, or a sister of another mother. His two famous siblings are both former members of parliament. We have Senator Beth Mugo and Ngengi Muigai. Those are his siblings. His father, the late James Muigai Wangengi, was Jomo's immediate follower. Waswahili wanasema ndugu watoka nitoke, but Luhyas say Jomo angeua mama yao, then James Muigai Ngengi hangezaliwa. Same mother but different fathers. Jomo was the son of Muigai. Jomo's father was called Muigai. That is why each of Jomo's eldest sons by each woman, apart from the Mzungu, each son was called Peter Muigai and Uhuru Muigai. So Jomo's father was Muigai. But when Muigai died, his widow was inherited by Muigai's younger brother, Muigai's younger brother, who was called Ngengi. And Ngengi, after inheriting Jomo's mother, the child they got was James Muigai Wangengi. He was named after Jomo's father. That is, you inherit the widow of your elder brother. When you get a kid, you name the kid after your late brother. It is, people don't like me putting my experience in it, but it has happened in the JI-TENGE family. JI-TENGE family, Mulanda died. Mulanda wa JI-TENGE died. His stepbrother Tondo inherited kwa Mulanda. That is Mulanda's widow. And when Tondo inherited, the first son they had was called Charles Mulanda Tondo. So he was a police officer. He died suddenly, like Guy said. He died suddenly at a roadblock in Rongai. So Mulanda, the late Constable Charles Mulanda, He was called Mulanda and his mother was called Kwa Mulanda. That is, his mother was inherited by her brother-in-law, and her brother-in-law Tondo, they gave birth to the first boy whom they called Charles Mulanda. They had only two boys. The other one was called James Huatenge, but not me. Not me. There is another. There are, when first cousins, you usually have several with the same name. So the most famous James Huatenge in my home area is of that. So I'm trying to say is that when Jomo's father died, when Muigai died, his younger brother Ngengi inherited his wife, his widow. In Luhya they call it Kwa. Kwa. So when you call me Kwatenge, unanitukana. You're supposed to call me Kwa. Kwatenge means son of. But Kwatenge means widow of Tenge. So Ngengi inherited Kwa Muigai. Kwa Muigai. That is Muigai's widow. And when he inherited Muigai's widow, they gave birth to a baby boy whom they called James Muigai, the name of his elder brother, whose widow he had inherited. That is now about him, about Kung'u Muigai. His father was Ngengi, his father was Muigai, James Muigai Ngengi. By that, my knowledge of the Kikuyu concludes that the former MP Ngengi Muigai must be an elder brother to Kung'u Muigai. Must be an elder brother to Kung'u Muigai because he inherited the name of the grandfather. Well, let us start with his current land issues. As I said, actually, this recording is centered on the land issues. It is provoked by that land issue. He had a land. Can we call it the rich also cry? He had a land and used to get a loan of, is it 8 million to develop that very same land. He took a loan of 8 million shillings. Don't go for the figures, but go for the idea. He took a loan of 8 million shillings to develop land. And when I talk of 8 million, don't think of 8 million in today's terms. At the onset of, people are going around. People are going around are going against Section 2A of the Constitution. I'll come to that. On the onset of Section 2A, he had paid 5 million shillings and it was remaining 3 million shillings. What is 2A? The Constitution of Kenya at that time said that for you to contest or to be an MP, for you to contest a political seat, either an MP or a councillor, you had to belong to a political party. That is what Section 2 said. Those days, there was no provision for contesting. Today we have so many governors. We even have governors who are elected on independent ticket. Can't recall which, but I know governors who are elected as independent candidates. We have senators who are elected as independent candidates. We have women rep. We have MPs, and we have even MCS who are independent. It is there today. But at the time when Kung'u Muigai these things were happening, the Constitution of Kenya said that you cannot contest for a political seat unless you belonged to a political party. That is Section 2. And it continued that way. Those were the days of Akamba. Oh, is it Akamba People's Party or African People's Party? Those are the days of Kinakadu. Those were the days of, what do we call? So many political parties, some of which were not even known. And then in 1964, KADU dissolved itself, and so Kenya became a one-party state de facto. De facto. And then in 19, can't recall which year, but there's a day when the constitution was changed in 5 minutes. It was changed by in 5 minutes when Mwai Kibaki proposed that the constitution should have a section 2A. You see, section 2 said you cannot contest for a political party unless you belong to you cannot contest a political seat unless you belong to a political party. But then Kibaki proposed, and it took 5 minutes to change the constitution and add just be below section 2, because there was section 3, section 4, so section 2 said you have to belong to a certain political party, and 2A said they inserted between 2 and 3, because 3 was there and it continued, but between there they placed there 2A, which means it is part of section 2. It is a subsection of section 2. So subsection 2A said the only political party in Kenya shall be KANU. So Kenya became a de jure one-party state. A de jure one-party state, what is the difference between de jure and de facto? De facto comes from the word fact. It is a fact that it is just one party. If you want to start another party like KPU, whatever, you could, whatever, it was allowed, although they had placed so much stringent measures that you could not do it, but it is just a fact that it was a one-party state. But when it became de jure, jure comes from jurist, it comes from law, it became constitutional that you cannot make any other party. That is why in 1990 around there, when Jaramogi wanted to start some party, political parties and whatever, and he applied. Nowadays we have a register of political parties, but those days it was a register of society. Register of society was in charge of registering political parties, registering societies like Luo Union, New Akamba Union. He was also in charge of registering churches. But nowadays we have, I think we soon will have a register of churches. But now we have a register of political parties and we have a register of societies. So around 1990s, Kenyans started campaigning to remove, if you remove section 2, it remains the way it was before. It remains the way it was because previously it just said you have to belong to a political party. But then when Kina Jaramogi applied for political party, it was NDP. There are two NDPs. There is the NDP for Raila and there is the NDP for Jaramogi. Jaramogi applied for the National Democratic Party with people like Salim Damwe and so on. But they were told that Section 2A, it is unconstitutional to have a party that is a political party apart from KANU. But on the other hand, Raila found somebody called Steve Oludhe. Oludhe had his national development. You remember Jaramogi's was National Democratic Party, but this one was National Development Party. So Raila took that because he wanted to use those initials. So that time, when Kenyans started complaining about Section 2A, Captain Muigai was among them. Captain Muigai was among them. And as I've said that he had an 8 million, I'm not very sure of the figure, but let us use just that figure. He had an 8 million loan and he had paid 5 million. So what was remaining was 3 million. He was almost clearing the loan. Kanu was not pleased. Kanu was not pleased. So KCB recalled the 3 million with immediate effect. With immediate effect. He could not produce it on the spot. But serikali kikutafuta, even if he would have produced it on the spot, they still would have, even if he would have produced it on the spot, they would still have looked for other ways to do that. So they auctioned the land. They auctioned the land. Imagine being summoned to Kencom house and told, produce 3 million or we sell the land. Now, let me say something before I continue. The law those days, the law concerning loans those days went like this. If you took a loan and maybe you are remaining with 1,000 shillings and you have placed your title deed on that, if you are unable to clear that 1,000 shillings, the bank would sell the land and take all the money. But nowadays, if you reach somewhere and you are unable to clear the law nowadays states that the bank will sell the land, take their remaining money, take their, there are those advertisement, whatever, what, and then give you the remaining of the money. But those days, even if it is 1,000 shillings remaining and you are unable to pay the 1,000, they sell the land and take everything. As I said, I'll repeat, nowadays they sell and then calculate. For example, you paid 75% of the loan, but you are unable to pay the 25%. So they sell the land to recover their 25%. Okay, let us also take 5% to be the amount that they'll use in paperwork. So they'll sell land in today's law and give you the 70%. To cut the long story short, they auctioned the land for, let us say, 20 million, and it was remaining 3 million. The buyer, I think it is Kamlesh Patni who bought it, and later he sold it. You imagine 3 million. Then, after selling the Nini for 20 million, that land is immediately sold to another person for 10 times that, something like 2 billion. Today's law allows, if you find yourself in such a situation, you can enter an agreement with a buyer. Let's say he buys that for 20 million, gives you, that is, he pays the bank, then the bank gives him the title deed, and then he gives you the remainder of the 20 million. So, but that is to ordinary people. The government, especially Kanu government, when it determined to finish you, those were those were the tactics. I want to share with my viewer, especially the young ones, some of these things that used to happen those days. I find it really disturbing when young people use today's environment to judge us of things that were there those days. You find you are useless people. You are the ones who allowed Moi. You are lucky you are saying that, because during Moi's time, imagining the overthrow of the government was treasonable conviction by death. Imagining. Anyway, let me share with my viewers, especially the young ones, one, how powerful the government was and how it could interfere in private transactions. Even though KCB was a government bank, they could interfere even with private banks. That is how I want to share with you. I also want to share with you how he was taken round circles, especially courts. Imagine even today, the courts insist that he had entered into a consent with the bank and the consent cannot be found because it is non-existent. Then the non-existent consent is further claimed that Captain Muigai stole it. Why do they act on a stolen consent? Because they cannot act on something that they don't know the content. If it is stolen, it is absent. So why act on something that is absent? Why don't they charge him with espionage and sabotage? Espionage is stealing classified government documents. Now, things to do with the bank loan transaction, it could be called could be also be charged under espionage. It is really hard not to believe him when he says that money changed hand. The way things are happening and the way they are assuming things, it is quite easy to assume that he's telling the truth. Now we will talk about his position in the Council of Elders. He is a long-serving leader of the Kikuyu Council of Elders. And in 2023, he was the chair of the Kenyan Council of Elders. Being the chair of the largest tribal council of elders and being from a prominent family that produced two presidents is a dicey matter. So by him not being controversial is a plus to him. Some may be tempted to say that he avoids risky topics. No, the way I know it, I've even known of a few occasions when he has talked things while Uhuru was the president, his brother by another father was the president, and he put that behind the banners. Let us now talk about his military life. You hear is called Captain Retired. Very little is known about his military life, apart from one or two instances, which we will share. He first came into limelight when, as a captain, he was among the soldiers who drew the horse carriage carrying Jomo Kenyatta's remains from State House, Nairobi, to Gatundu and back. The camera people were very much particular at him by saying that among the military commissioned officers who were drawing the cart, the one was his nephew. He joined the military with the late Major General Kaisere. While doing their induction as cadet officer, Kaisere and Muigai were noted to be leading in their class. So they were chosen to undertake their cadet course in India. You see, if you are taking students for benchmarking to another school, you don't take those who are bongolala. You take some of your brightest, so that when they are in class with other in nationals, say, hey, Kenya or that school of yours has some of the best brains. But if you take their bongolala, it may be their whatever. So they undertook, first of all, they started their cadet course at Lanet. When by then it was called AFTC, Armed Forces Training College. It used to take a 9-month course. After 2 to 3 months, they were noted to be the bright ones, and they were taken to join. They were taken to join the Indian, the Indian Military Academy. Even today, such cases are there. I am reminding myself of Captain Masinde. Captain Masinde is a younger brother to Frederick Simiyu Masinde, the posthumous MP for Mathare. Captain Masinde attended his cadet course in the USA. I am also reminding myself of Lieutenant Colonel retired Joseph Mwita Chacha of the Kenya Air Force and others. So it is something that is normal. But you see, there is a problem here. My father was a provincial CID officer. So anything happened to you, babake ni mkubwa. So it is quite easy for people to say that Ngengi went there because he's a son to the then president. If you go to Karen, to the National Defense College or even the National Defense University and other Kenya military colleges, you will find officers from neighboring countries. Our military has gone high to an extent that we are now offering neighboring countries such courses. Those days, it is us who are going to other countries. And that is how Gaisere and Muigai found themselves in India. So in 1972, the two cadets were sent to India, Indian military cadet, to undertake their cadet course. Then Idi Amin expelled Asians, mostly Indians, from Uganda. Now imagine you are Kenyans. Actually, they were not just Kenyans. We had African students there. It became untenable for them to even be within the military academy. So suddenly tension was in the military academy. They went to the Kenyan embassy for queries on what to do next. Remember, the embassy was nervous since they were talking to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Nairobi about a son of the president. I'm saying a son of the president because we are using the African narrative of a father by my brother. He is Uhuru Kenyatta. He is Uhuru Kenyatta's brother by another father. They hung around New Delhi for several days before they were brought back to Kenya. In Kenya, they started hanging around. Can I use the word chokora? They were hanging around. Nobody knew what to do with them. Their classmates whom they had left in Lanet had already completed their course and had already been commissioned as officers. So these who were leading in class were now still cadets. So when they meet the other ones, they are supposed to salute them. This demoralized them. But you see, those in the back were now in the front, and those who were in the front were at the back. To cut the long story short, Jomo Kenyatta had them rounded up. They were even placed in military cells, and they were taken to State House, where Jomo Kenyatta told them of two options only. He told Gaisere and Captain Muigai that you choose to restart. Imagine, 9 months course you had attended 3 months, and then you had attended another 3 months in India. So you are about to be commissioned, but you are to restart again because there was going to be another cadet selection. You restart again or you go to committee. Well, nobody would want to go to committee, so they restarted again. And he gifted each one some cash. Gifted each some cash. Ngengi claims that he drank his money, but Gaisere started a butchery, and that is how Gaisere died as a prominent butcher person in Kajiado County. According to Ngengi, that is where it started. And again, Jomo whispered something to Gaisere in Kimasai. This is what to say that one day I may talk about Jomo's connection with Masai, but not today.